afternoon, everyone. We're so excited to be with you, and I'm so excited today to be sitting with ADCOLOR Future Class of 2014. These guys are rock stars. I'm so excited for you to meet them, hear from them, and to really hear about their vision for advertising, what they think is happening now, what they see in the future, and some things that are really interesting. And really, we're here to discuss, your career, what's going on, and how you feel about advertising in general. And so at my agency, Buzz Marketing Group, we have done a lot of research around millennials in the workplace. We have some studies that are available. But one interesting statistic that we found is that 85% of millennial employees find that growth opportunities are most important. So we really want to talk about what does that mean when we talk about career guidance and things like that, what they're looking for. And so please don't forget to tweet questions to us. We're going to ask a few questions to the panel, and then we're going to open the floor for your questions. So without further ado, I'd love for the panelists to introduce themselves and also talk about your ADCOLOR affiliation.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bennett. I'm a freelance copywriter from Far Rockaway, New York. And I was brought here by the lovely people at the Madison's Brown Fellowship.
Hi everyone, my name is Amber Jackson. I'm originally from Kansas City, Kansas, but I currently live in New York. I work at Gray, New York as an advertising exec on Pantene.
Hey everyone, my name is Jacqueline Balajiran. I'm from a military family, grew up in Leavenworth, Kansas, now out of New York as a freelance account planner at Razorfish.
Hi, my name is Candace Queen. I'm from Port Arthur, Texas. Art director. Currently based in Austin, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Texas. And I am the Mate One Club Creative Intern of the Year.
Hi everyone, I'm Carla Rubio. I'm currently living in Miami, working at Mindshare, but lived fantastic 5 years in New York City. And I guess I got here thanks to ADCOLOR via MEEP in 2009.
Okay. My name is Josh Lee. I'm a freelance copywriter, just a small town Jersey kid who's trying to make a bi-coastal West Coast LA move right now, so I'm nervous. I have a duffel bag and that's about it. So I'm here on behalf of 2 stints with MAPE, 12 and 13, so I'm incredibly blessed. Thank you.
Awesome. So, Josh, I'm going to start with you. What barriers, and this is for all of you guys to answer, what barriers have you encountered as you've been introduced into the media and advertising industry?
Sure. Barriers I faced. I think the first one was really that my peer group, or even a lot of my Asian American friends, didn't really know advertising as a creative outlet for us to go about a career. I knew I wanted to write since I was young, but I never knew what it was. I wanted to be a screenwriter, a speechwriter, and then when I found copywriting, I found something that was so closely aligned with brand ideals and brands I really trusted and envisioned for myself. And so, yeah, the barriers other than that when I got in was that I think we don't really see a lot of Asian writers either way. And so breaking into that, in high school, all my American lit was pretty much all these really heroic white dudes trampling through the forest and doing amazing things, but that's just not my story. And that is an American story, it's just not my American story. So, I want to get out here and really tell stories of my father, my mother, and really just talk about the way I grew up and the Americana that I adopted when I, was raised, once again, in New Jersey. Woo, anybody? All right. Yeah, 201, let's throw it up. Okay, sorry about that.
I don't know if I can just follow that. I guess the barrier I've seen, I think it's most recently as I moved to Miami. I've been, in my 5 years in my early career, I've been fortunate to be involved in programs thanks to ADCOLOR and MAPE and all the various organizations that are all linked. So I think barriers coming in, I've been fortunate not to see many. I think I've worked in companies that have appreciated diversity and thoughts that come from people like us. But currently, as I move to Miami, I'm realizing that diversity means obviously different things. Main topic of our week here, and kind of figuring out how to identify what really means diversity for Miami and helping kind of bring programs like this to a city like Miami that doesn't really see the importance and the value of it for a company. So trying to figure that out internally. Any suggestions as you see me throughout the weekend, let me know.
I guess the biggest barrier for me was access to the right source of education. I completed my undergraduate degree at the University of Houston, and we had an advertising program, but it wasn't super developed. I wanted to be an art director, and every place I applied to said I needed to go to a portfolio school. I couldn't afford portfolio school. So I got very discouraged. My mother was suffering from cancer, but her goal in life was to get a bachelor's degree. So she completed her bachelor's degree about four weeks before she died. And watching her complete that and helping her, I had to write her funeral arrangements, and just going through that process showed me that I'm a strong, resilient woman of God, and that I could continue on and I could reach my goals. So after that, I started getting involved with the American Advertising Federation, and that led me to Mosaic Career Fair in Chicago. And the lovely people at Leo Burnett gave me this long list of all the organizations I needed to know about and all the books I needed to read. And I just dived in from there. And AAF led to the 4As in MAPE, and that brought me to the One Club, and then that brought me here. And I'm just so incredibly blessed, and I'm so excited to reach out to other people who are struggling and think that you have to go one particular way, but you don't. And I'm really happy to be that testimony.
Awesome.
For me, entering the industry was an interesting experience. I'm from a multiracial family living in a pretty rural part of Kansas. So I grew up not seeing people who looked like me, acted like my family did, represented in media or anywhere really. It was pretty isolating and alienating to think that you're this different. How are you living in this world like this? So I found advertising as a way in, trying to do that through research as a planner, have people think of these ideas. But backtracking a little bit, I'm a first-generation college student, so entering the industry was something that put me against my family for a little while. They've made so many sacrifices to get me to college that they kind of assumed I'd go towards a lucrative path, something that would have these automatic paybacks. Yeah, they saw this creative outlet as something that seemed more like something to do for fun and not as a career path. So it's been slowly working up that way. I couldn't have done this without the AAF MPMS program, 4A's MAPE. These really helped me as somebody who didn't know people who are working in business environments in general, learn some of the basics like the resume, the cover letter. Those are all barriers that people need to face and learn what they are in order to enter.
So I just wanted to mention I got here through LeGrant as well as Most Promising Minority Student Program. That was something that I missed. I think right now the barriers that I'm working with are the ones that I deal with on a daily basis now that I've been in the industry for about 2 years. So I think first and foremost, I think for me it's very hard to find mentors just because I don't see people that I feel like can relate to me 100%. So I might have a really great supervisor, but maybe she doesn't understand the difficulties of being an African American woman in the industry as well. But I think in addition to that, even though we have these barriers, we also have solutions. We're a resilient generation. So instead of waiting for mentors, we're going out and we're seeking them. I think additionally, some other barriers that we face are relating to our peers and our coworkers. But I think additionally, as I said, we find ways to counter that. So we're always looking for those commonalities as well. So those are just a few things that I'm battling, but it doesn't seem like a battle. I think I'm just working towards, getting through the day, and it's not a hard thing. So thanks.
That's awesome.
For me, I'm like a big city kid who lives in a small town. Far Rockaway is so far removed from the rest of New York that it's crazy. And I'm a first generation American, first generation college graduate. My family's from Jamaica, you know, nurses, technicians, all sorts of things. So I never grew up knowing that advertising was a thing. You know, it wasn't until like 3 years ago that somebody told me on Facebook, hey, Benny, you'd make a great copywriter one day. I was like, really? You know, I wrote short fiction and songs and everything else. So advertising was really new to me. Was in my second school doing broadcasting. So, you know, felt like I was behind a lot of my peers who were, you know, who had figured out what they wanted to do with their lives and said, oh, you know, 4 years of college isn't a big deal, you know. But, you know, decided to jump into advertising. Went to my first networking event, and that was where, like, you know, I realized how huge of an obstacle I had going in. It was where all the black people, sponsored by the One Club, and everybody from portfolio schools like VCU and Miami, they had these pretty portfolios, and I'm like, I'm just a writer, and this is my competition. What am I gonna have to do? So transferred schools, did the One Club Creative Boot Camp, MAPE, went to all these like networking events through Madison's Brown, just like really, really pushed. Even had to go through Hurricane Sandy, which like left me and my family like separated in hotel rooms and with relatives for almost a full year. But you know, I'm glad to be here because I mean, for me it means like, wow, like I've pushed hard and worked to break through all this just to feel like the great copywriter that I feel like I can be, and a lot of people I can feel I can be.
That's great. So I think you guys have done a great job of setting the stage, and one theme that I am hearing is the importance of mentorship and really the importance of organizations to really help propel you to the next level. So the next question deals with this intergenerational play that's happening right now, not just in advertising. I think every industry is experiencing, you know, an influx of millennial employees, as well as, you know, boomers, Gen Xers, and then a lot of conversation, particularly in media, around tweens and teens. And so as millennials, how do you think that you'll work with these other generations? And it'd be great for all of us. What are some tips for us as we deal with millennials? What are some important things we should know? You've talked about mentorship. How do we work with you? I think that's really the question.
So one thing that I think is very important is making sure that you make your millennial feel like they're an investment. There's a change in the traditional work model, meaning people now have regular jobs, well not regular, but traditional jobs, but then they also have their side business or their side hustle. And I think companies like Deutsch and Digitas, they're doing a really good job of developing these internal employee programs that help invest in their employees' dreams. So show us that you want to invest in us. And there's so many different ways to do that, but I think that's a key way to do that.
Okay.
I think that's great, Candace.
That's great.
So I was having this really great conversation with MJ. I know you're out there, and we were kind of talking about this a little bit and looking at it a little bigger and a little broader, so looking at the industry as a whole. And we kind of feel like we're seeing this observation where we have these traditional agencies, but we're also seeing these kind of smaller startup agencies as well. And we really feel like what millennials can bring to the industry is creating a new agency that's a merge of those two, right? So, you know, we're taking the basic principles of advertising, but we're also taking the agility of these smaller startup agencies and making this ultimate, I guess, agency. And I think additionally, millennials are gonna bring, I know right before we came in here, we were talking about production. And I think millennials are so innovative, and I don't think it takes a big production, all these cameras. We're gonna take a flip phone, and we're gonna take a flip camera, or we're gonna take our iPhone, and we're gonna make something really awesome for a brand that's gonna cost, you know, maybe not as much, but consumers are gonna love just as much. And then in addition to what you were saying, Candace, one thing that I really like about my team is they really assess what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, and they place you on specific initiatives and projects based on those things. So they may say, Amber, you're very digital. You work on a lot of digital things. Let me put you on some traditional work so that you can build that weakness there. So I think that's additionally one way that you can kind of support your millennials in the workplace.
I guess to quickly add to that, and the point of kind of making your millennial, I guess, feel invested. I think personally, I appreciate understanding the why of what we're doing the work. So if bringing back the context of the business and why our work, what impact our work will have on the ROI or whatever it is, or whatever you're working on, because I think at the end of the day, that gives us more reason to do it and to do a great job. And additionally, I know a lot of the way teams work, sometimes it is kind of an hierarchy model, and I think there's a place and a time, obviously, we have to fulfill our role, but also kind of bringing in from an entry-level position, involving your millennials in bigger projects, kind of at least giving them stab of asking the questions and being curious, and potentially providing a really strong idea that a different group wouldn't have been able to come up on their own. So keeping the entry-level folks, the younger generation, kind of involved in all of that, I think keeps us motivated to give you guys even better work.
That's great. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
2 points for me. First, you have to remember that millennials coming into the industry have been really working at it, oftentimes months, even years, extra portfolio school, lots of time searching, developing freelance projects. It hasn't been easy for any of us to enter in. So I think we come into these agencies with so much pride and interest in really pushing the limit, doing whatever we can see. We want brands to become braver in pushing this as well, not being afraid to take the risks that we've taken to get into the industry. And this can be shown when we're a generation of mobilizers. We're no longer just sitting back and allowing for movements to pass us by. We'll speak up about it and form a campaign. You can see these all over the web, in person. So allowing us to have our voices be heard in that way, and to use that, less selling, more allowing people to be heard, I think is important.
My one point is that the industry should look at millennials as a force more than they should look at us as a risk. Really key example of that, Black Twitter. That shows how much of a force we are to be reckoned with. If you have, if you've seen the whole Iggy Azalea and J-Lo article in Vogue magazine, and how Twitter reacted to that. That's a lot of millennials who are up on, this was our culture. We understood that. Why is it that, a girl from Australia feels the need to set a trend that booties are in, So, keep, so, I'll end it right there.
Thank you so much. Please don't forget to tweet your questions. We're just going to start taking questions in a moment. I have one more question for you guys. You've talked a lot about what it's taken all of you to get to where you are, what you think is kind of needed. What advice would you have for someone that's looking to enter the industry? What advice? And then I think when you're giving your advice, it'd also be great to know what's a challenge that you've identified in the industry right now, and then what advice do you have for facing that challenge? Start with you, Josh.
I'm sorry, can you just clarify the second part of your
Sure.
question?
So what's a challenge that you think you recognize in entering advertising, and then what's your advice for facing that challenge?
Cool. So I was greatly helped by MAPE. That was my introduction to advertising. But I literally found MAPE at the corner of my career fair, and it was like next to the bathroom. I think that's how I found it. And so, who knew? Who knew what it would be today? It's such an amazing program. I think even my first intern project was how can we get millennials and multiculturals more interested in advertising, something more digital, and to complement the person-to-person meeting. When I got to MAPE, it was just, I think I'd say for any people looking to get into the future, I think, Amber, you mentioned finding mentors, and I think within all the programs, absolutely we can speak for that. Like, the people who have sought out and mentored us are just, have really been different because they've only been concerned about our best interest, and I'm so thankful and grateful to them. And just, I know it's hard to find that kind of genuine organic relationship because we've been talking about it all week in terms of how can we facilitate that more and more often, but I think conferences like ADCOLOR are beautiful because you get to really facilitate and really get to kind of go through a thorough investigation of people you vibe with, people you don't, and eventually, hopefully, you know, something works out, and know that most of the people I've met in this industry are out for my best interest as well. So I'm super glad to be here. I just would plug that. Make as many encounters with people higher up across the row, around your table. I think there's such an immense amount of wealth of experience and knowledge to be gained from even the people sitting right next to you. So yeah, that's what I'd really say. Just keep asking questions, keep meeting people, and yeah, that's it.
That's great.
I think my suggestion, I guess my advice to millennials would be first to be open-minded. I think a lot of us have this big dream and ideal jobs and perfect jobs, and a lot of times we don't know, I guess, what else is out there. So even running into MAPE by the corner bathroom, it wasn't, like, at the end of it, you don't know what's out there, so really being open-minded, because you may think that you're going in one track and you find out that there's something so much better than what's meant for you. And I think throughout that process, you get to meet so many people that then lead you to the next step. I think once you're in the industry, definitely ask a lot of questions. I think regardless of the setting, whether it's C-level executives or peers, that people appreciate the curiosity and knowing that, you know, you're invested in whatever's going on, you're actually engaged and paying attention. And again, I think that adds respect to what you can add to the company. So, and then I guess a challenge is a big topic, I guess, this week, which has been inclusion. And I think within our peers, we do it ourselves and just from a cultural perspective as well. But I mean, a solution to that is staying active in programs like this, because there's a lot of education that hopefully we're taking in and then taking back to our companies to help kind of drive awareness and hopefully influence some programs that can help us out within the companies.
I would say first, get involved with these organizations, but don't just get involved to reap the benefits. Contribute, volunteer. With AAF, I was known as the crazy girl that followed them everywhere they went. But I wanted to learn, and I wanted to contribute while I was learning. So definitely, I think that makes your experience more authentic, more organic. As far as a challenge, I would say we have a lot of initiatives going on within companies, these programs like ADCOLOR, but it's also important to change the attitude within the agencies, because we can talk about it and say we have these programs in our agency, but if it's not actually implemented and adapted, it won't work. So we have to come collectively together to try and change that attitude of tolerance to acceptance. And I think that's when we'll really start making progress.
That's great.
Couple of quick tips from me. If you're from a small town in Kansas, want to get hired out in a big city, take your address off your resume. It'll get you a lot further. You have to know when there's a line between showing interest in someone and really stalking them. I think it stops at a couple. Don't leave voicemails on people's phones. I've done that a few times, but.
I love it.
And I'll do it to all of you after this weekend. I think something really important is being able to propagate the diversity initiatives and ensure that people, not just in the cluster colleges, like the top 10 ad programs, know about these people succeed anyway. They're coming through these amazing programs. And then someone who's not necessarily taking that path, doing a liberal arts degree at somewhere else, might not know about it, and they could be somebody who has a different point of view that they could enter in. Advertising is all about conflict and tension and being able to solve that. And I think it really starts with who you have in your agency being able to argue it then and there and not have it come out and have people determine that this is a bad campaign. So that's something important. I think another one, this is something for HR to look into. These diversity programs are awesome, but sometimes the other interns who are with you and got in some other way will see you as something, ask questions, how did these students make it in? Was this process easier for them? Alienate you a little bit in that way, which I don't think is a consequence or a result that is intended by any means, but somehow being able to talk about diversity among people, even at that level, just starting out, would be something great and something that I would have appreciated coming up.
That's great.
I'm going to keep my response really quick. So I feel like the biggest barrier is competition. I don't think it's just that we want to be here, everyone wants to be here. And so I feel like the two ways that we can address this is, one, knowing what advertising actually is. I feel like a lot of people don't. And then I think secondly is knowing what you specifically can bring that's unique. So for me, actually, Jacqueline and I are both from Kansas and we went to the same undergrad, but for me, I see myself as a Kansas girl with a New York state of mind. So that's something that I can bring that most people in this room can't, So you should be thinking in that way when you're doing your cover letters or you're tweeting people or you're in your interview, because that's really gonna stand out. So that's my thought.
I'm going to try to be quick too. One challenge that the industry is starting to challenge but needs to go full throttle on is starting young, like not just college level, but high school level. I had the really cool honor and privilege of naming the first high school early college in advertising called Mecca in New York City. And I mean, these kids are going to go through 6 years of hard work. And that's the future of the industry. Not just us 30 ADCOLOR futures, but these kids coming out with paid internship experience, all this really cool stuff. Like agencies, the industry really needs to get invested in that. Advice to young professionals trying to make it happen. I have 3 tips. 1, stay current and be present. Be at events, do whatever it takes to really make an impact, early so that people will always remember you, not just for your name. 2, trust the process. I've had a lot of great opportunities. I missed out on a lot of opportunities. I've gone through a few ruts, but you have to be persistent in your dreams and your goals. Otherwise, you're gonna fall short. You're really gonna fall short. And 3, I hate the word networking. I personally hate the word networking. So to young professionals, stop networking because it sounds really selfish. Like, oh, what can you do for me? Start team building. What can we do for each other?
Awesome. So now we're going to start taking your questions. And guys, if you can just, we want to get through as many as possible, so let's just keep our responses short. So first, what are you most excited about for the next phase of your career? And if you all could just answer really quickly, that'd be great.
Shout out to Ms. ADCOLOR for posting that question. I'm most excited about being an asset to a really great agency.
Okay, that's great.
Like I said, I recently just moved to Miami, so I think the next phase of my life or my career is taking what I learned in New York City and bringing it to Miami. Completely different market, completely different lifestyle and pace and everything, and I think there's something to be learned to some extent from New York City to Miami to bring that together. So hopefully I can make some influences.
Sure. So first and foremost, it's going to start next week is bringing everything from ADCOLOR back to my agency and my team. I'm very excited about that. I've already primed them. Everyone knows. I've shared it. So I'm super excited about that. And then secondly, I work primarily on digital, so I'm really excited to see what innovations and cool things that we can do in my creative director is out there as well, so I'm excited to see what we can do together.
Great.
I'm excited to get to a point in my career where I can fail and fail big. I think right now, as an entry level, you're supporting someone, your ideas are heard, but you don't have that opportunity just yet to push the envelope so far that you really don't know the result. You know what you want to come out of it, and what would come out of it would be something great, but there's always that opportunity where it isn't met the right way, so being able to do that.
Well, I'm really excited to graduate in May. And I'm also excited to just dive into the industry and also reach back and just help guide other people to this direction and help other people progress in whatever their dreams may lie in this industry. So,
I am looking forward to company health insurance. I think that's pretty big. That was good. Just getting all the bells and whistles checked out, you know, that's always really important for my mother, especially. To be real, I cannot wait until I get something I wrote, like a spot or anything, TV hopefully, and I just want to watch it with my dad and sit on my couch watching my dad. And he tries to like figure out all the American idioms and taglines, and he's gonna be like, "That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense." But it's gonna be awesome. So I can't wait for that. I cannot wait for that. Yeah.
That's great. All right, I have one final question. So, as you guys are rising up as the future of advertising, in what ways are you giving back?
well, right now at the University of Texas, we have an organization called Minorities in Advertising. And we're going into our second year, and it's just full speed ahead. And so I'm really excited to see all of the progress we make and all the people we help with that. We've had how many interns from MAPE this year? I think over 15 maybe.
Wow.
And that had a lot to do with MIA, I'm proud to say. So.
That's great.
I think for me, how I'm reaching back, you know, helping out these new high school students, reaching back to City College of New York, where I graduated from, and we have yes. You know, I was a MAPE campus ambassador my last year of school, and you know, we were able to get quite a few MAPE interns, and it's a pretty small school compared to the UTs and the UFs and wherever else these kids are, you know, big schools they're coming from. So, you know, it feels cool to be the scrappy underdog and to get exposure, you know, because New York City is where Madison Avenue is, but where are the advertising programs in New York City that, you know, it's sad. So, gonna work on that.
That's great.
A couple of things. So I'm additionally in grad school at City College, so I am the very first class of this program. So one way I'm looking to give back is to start an alumni advisory board that's going to help inform the curriculum and things like that for the program. Secondly, I write a blog, and my posts are really like those stupid questions you never want to ask, but you really want to know. So I just try to do the simplest things, like what is content marketing? You know, what does that mean? It's a buzzword, and so I just write a quick post about it. And then I had a last point, and I don't remember it, so I'm just gonna.
For me, I think it's just the everyday conversations. Like not avoiding, when someone's asking us why we were out of work last week, saying what ADCOLOR is, why we were there, what the mission was. I think sometimes we can shirk that a little bit. It sounds kind of weird, like, oh, especially for me as someone who's half white, half Asian, saying I'm at a multicultural conference can get some looks sometimes, so not being afraid to say it and what it is.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I think we're out of time, but as you can see, the future looks amazingly bright if we are judging from the talent on the stage. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Take care of yourself.